There comes a moment in life when time stops being an endless road ahead and instead it turns into a reflection, a mirror of the years behind you. Think about it. Decades spent chasing, proving, holding on, but now something has changed, something you never expected. The things that once consumed your mind, the things that kept you awake at night, they've begun to fade. Not suddenly, not all at once, but piece by piece, the weight is lifting, and for the first time in your life, you begin to see what truly matters and what never did. You may have spent years worrying about how others see you, but does it matter now? You may have fought to keep up, to stay relevant, to impress, but for what? You've spent a lifetime holding on to things, memories, regrets, expectations. But after 70, you come to a realization that's both liberating and unsettling. So much of what we once thought was important just doesn't matter anymore. But here's the real question. If none of it matters anymore, why did it ever matter at all? Welcome to Legendary Space, a place where we uncover the truths that time reveals. Today we embark on a journey, one that may challenge everything you've ever believed about life after 70. Because some things you fought for, things you lost sleep over, things that shaped your very existence, no longer hold the same meaning. Some of these revelations will surprise you, and some may change you forever. Tell me, have you ever had a moment where you suddenly realized something just didn't matter anymore? Share it in the comments. Your wisdom may be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Now let's begin with the first on the list, which is other people's opinions. There was a time when their words held power. A time when an offhand remark could stay with you for days, weeks even. The way they looked at you, the way they measured your choices, the subtle glances, the unspoken judgments, they mattered, or so you thought. But after 70, something shifts. One day you wake up and it dawns on you. Those opinions, the ones that once dictated your every move, they were never yours to carry. We spend a lifetime playing a role in someone else's story, trying to fit in, trying to be liked, trying to be enough. As children, we seek approval from parents. As teenagers, we crave validation from friends. As adults, we chase acceptance from society, from colleagues, from family. The weight of expectations grows heavier with every passing year. But something happens when you cross 70. You start to ask yourself, why? Why did I care so much? And more importantly, who was I trying to impress? I remember a time when I wouldn't leave the house without second-guessing my appearance. Every mirror, every reflection was a test. Were my clothes acceptable? Did I look put together? Would they notice the way my hands had begun to wrinkle, the way my hair had silvered at the edges? And then one day, I stood in front of the mirror and I asked myself, who am I dressing for? Who am I trying to impress? I thought back to the people I had once worried about, the judgmental neighbor, the critical coworker, the distant relative who always had something to say, and suddenly I realized they were gone. Their opinions, forgotten. Their words, meaningless. But the years I spent worrying, those I could never get back. At that moment, I made a decision. I would no longer shape my life around the opinions of others. I would live for me. There is a kind of freedom that comes with age, a quiet, steady confidence that grows in the spaces where self-doubt once lived. You begin to understand that no matter what you do, people will always have something to say. If you dress too simple, they call it dull. If you dress too bold, they call it excessive. If you speak your mind, you're opinionated. If you stay silent, you're weak. There is no winning. There never was. And that is the lesson. Their opinions were never about you. They were about them, their fears, their insecurities, their need to control what they do not understand. The moment you stop seeking approval, you unlock a kind of freedom you never knew existed. So here is a truth that will change your life. The only opinion that matters is your own. Ask yourself, what do you like? What makes you feel good? What brings you peace? The moment you stop living for the expectations of others, you start living for yourself. And that is the kind of freedom most people never taste until it's too late. So laugh louder, wear the colors that make you happy, say what's on your mind. Stop explaining yourself, let them talk, let them wonder, and then let them go. Have you ever let go of someone's opinion and felt instant relief? Tell me in the comments. Because when you free yourself from the weight of others' expectations, you make room for something far more important: peace. The second on the list is material possessions. We spend a lifetime collecting, accumulating, acquiring. Shelves filled, closets packed, attics stuffed with things we once thought we couldn't live without. But as the years pass, something shifts, something unexpected. The things that once held so much meaning begin to lose their weight. And after 70, a realization dawns, a truth so simple, yet so often ignored: none of it really matters. We spend decades believing in the idea that more is better. A bigger house, a newer car, closets filled with clothes, cabinets overflowing with dishes, garages stacked with forgotten memories. We convince ourselves that these things define us, that they represent our success, our stability, our worth. But then, life happens. Decades pass, and one day you look around and realize you don't need any of it. Because the truth is, the most valuable things in life are never things at all. I once met a man who had spent his entire life building his dream. A grand house, high on a hill, with rooms so vast they echoed when he spoke. He had worked for decades, making sure every detail was perfect. The finest furniture, the rarest paintings, a dining table that could seat 20, though it rarely sat more than 2. And then, something changed. One evening, after years of chasing more, he found himself sitting alone in his massive home, staring at the walls, surrounded by things that no longer spoke to him. He left it all behind. He sold the grand estate and moved into a small cabin by the lake, 1 bedroom, 1 table, 1 chair by the window where he could watch the water move. And for the first time in years, he felt light, free, happy. Because happiness was never in the walls of a house, nor in the price of the things inside it. It was in the quiet, the simplicity, the freedom of letting go. There is something powerful about understanding that you are not your belongings. The house you lived in for years, someone else will live there one day. The clothes you once adored, they will be donated or forgotten. The furniture you carefully picked out, it will be sold, discarded, or left behind. But the moments, the laughter at the dinner table, the late-night talks, the morning sunlight spilling through the window, those remain. Those live on in the hearts of the people you love. And in the end, those are the only things that truly belong to you. At the end of life, we don't measure our happiness by the things we own, but by the memories we create. No one reaches their final days and wishes they had bought more, owned more, collected more. Instead, they wish they had spent more time living, loving, being present. If you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, would it be to buy more, or would it be to cherish more? To travel lightly, to love deeply, to let go sooner? If you could keep only 5 things that truly matter to you, what would they be? Because in the end, the things you hold on to the tightest should never be things at all. Thirdly on the list, holding on to regrets. Regret is a strange thing. It lingers, it whispers, it follows you like a shadow, silent but ever present. It is the weight of words never spoken, the roads never taken, the moments we let slip through our fingers, thinking we had more time. But after 70, something changes. You wake up one morning and realize you have spent far too many years looking back. And now you only want to look forward. Regret is like an old book we keep rereading, even though we already know the ending. We revisit old chapters, replaying the scenes, wondering if we could have said something different, done something better, made another choice. We tell ourselves stories of what could have been, what should have been, and yet, no matter how many times we turn the pages, the ending never changes. But after 70, we begin to ask ourselves, why? Why keep reliving pain? Why waste the time we have left, mourning the time we have lost? I once knew a woman who had always dreamed of traveling. She spoke of Paris, of Rome, of the places she had read about in books but never seen with her own eyes. She had the time, she had the money, but every year she found a reason to wait. Maybe next year, she would say. Maybe when I have more time. Maybe when I'm ready. And then the years slipped away. She turned 60, then 70, and regret settled in like an old friend. But then something remarkable happened. One morning, at 75 years old, she woke up and realized she was done waiting. She packed a bag, bought a ticket, and boarded a plane. Alone. No more excuses, no more waiting. just the open sky, the endless road, and the freedom of a choice finally made. And when she returned, she told me something I will never forget. She said, "I thought I would regret waiting so long, but the moment I stepped off that plane, I realized the only thing that matters is that I did it at all." Because regret is not about the things we didn't do in the past. It's about the things we still have the power to do now. You can't rewrite the past, but you can still write the ending. Regret only has power if you let it keep you stuck. If you let it hold you in place, replaying the same scenes over and over again. But instead of looking back, you asked yourself, what can I do today? Right now? What small step can I take toward the life I still want to live? The past is a closed book, but today is a blank page. What's one regret you've let go of? Share it below. It might inspire someone. Another on the list is the need to impress others. There was a time when appearances mattered more than peace. A time when we carefully curated the way we were seen, as if life itself were a performance. At 30, we worried about status. At 50, we worried about career. But at 70, we just want to be at peace with ourselves. You reach a point where you stop trying to impress and start focusing on what truly fulfills you. But the real question is, why did we ever care so much in the first place? We live much of our lives performing. We buy clothes not for comfort, but for admiration. We purchase homes not for shelter, but for status. We chase titles not for fulfillment, but for recognition. We are taught from a young age that to be seen as successful, we must be admired. And so we climb. We strive. We adjust our words, our actions, our very identities, just to fit into a world that is constantly watching. But after 70, something shifts, and you begin to wonder, what was it all for? At 20, we want to impress the world. We crave approval, we measure ourselves against impossible standards, we seek validation in the eyes of strangers. At 30, we want to impress our peers. We compare careers, homes, relationships, trying to keep up, trying to prove that we are enough. At 50, we want to impress our families. We want our children to be proud, our partners to admire us, our communities to respect us. But at 70, we realize none of it ever really mattered. Because no one is keeping score. No one is watching as closely as we thought. And the people who truly love us, they never needed to be impressed in the first place. So what is real wealth? What is true success? It is not in the car you drive, nor the house you own. It is not in the title on your business card, nor the number in your bank account. Real wealth is having a life that makes you happy, not one that looks good to others. It is waking up without the weight of expectation. It is sitting in a quiet room and feeling at peace. It is laughing loudly, without hesitation, without care for who is watching. It is choosing comfort over appearances, joy over judgment, authenticity over approval. It is the freedom of being completely and unapologetically yourself. Who is one person that inspires you to live life on your own terms? Maybe it's a grandparent who never cared what others thought. Maybe it's a friend who lives simply but fully. Maybe it's you, finally realizing that you are free. Number 5 is drama and petty conflicts. There was a time when every disagreement felt urgent, when every conflict demanded a response, when being right seemed more important than being at peace. We spent years defending ourselves, proving our points, holding grudges that outlasted the very arguments that started them. But after 70, something shifts, and you begin to understand that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every word needs a response, and sometimes silence is the most powerful answer of all. Drama, conflict, petty arguments. For so much of our lives, we hold on to them as if they define us. We replay old conversations in our minds, sharpening our comebacks, rehearsing what we should have said. We waste hours, days, wrapped in frustration, in resentment, in the need to prove a point, as if winning the argument could ever fill the emptiness of a broken relationship. But then, life moves forward, years pass, and you begin to ask yourself, was it worth it? I once knew a man who lost a lifelong friend over a single argument. The details? He barely remembers them now, but the silence that followed, that he remembers. It started small, as these things often do. A disagreement, a raised voice, a door that closed just a little too hard. Days passed, then weeks, then years. Each one convinced the other should be the first to apologize. each one waiting for the other to make the first move. And so they waited and waited, until one day, time made the decision for them. Until one day, it was too late. At the funeral, the man stood by the casket of the friend he had once called a brother. And in that moment, he realized something devastating. He had won the argument, but he had lost something far greater. Ask yourself this: would you rather be right or be happy? Would you rather hold on to your pride or let go for the sake of peace? Would you rather win a battle or keep a relationship? Because after 70, you learn that peace is not found in proving yourself. It is found in knowing that not every fight is worth having, not every disagreement needs a victor, and not every conflict deserves your energy. True strength is walking away. True wisdom is knowing when to let go. Imagine this. You are standing on a bridge, holding a heavy stone in your hands. The stone represents every grudge, every old wound, every unresolved argument. You carry it with you, day after day, feeling its weight in your heart, in your mind, in your body. Now, imagine letting it go, dropping it into the water below, watching as it sinks, as the ripples fade, as the weight disappears. That is what peace feels like. And the most beautiful thing? It is a choice you can make at any time. What's one conflict you've walked away from for the sake of peace? Because, in the end, peace is not something you find. It is something you create. And number 6 on the list is fear of aging. Aging. It's a word that carries weight, a word that society has wrapped in fear, in resistance, in quiet denial. We are told to fight it, to hide it, to erase the signs of time, as if growing older were something to be ashamed of. But what if we were wrong? What if everything we've been taught about aging is a lie? Because the truth is, aging is not something to fear. Aging is a privilege, a gift that many never receive. From the time we are young, we are taught to fear growing old. We see it in the way people chase youth, in the way birthdays become quieter after a certain age, in the way wrinkles are spoken of as flaws instead of stories written on the skin. The world tells us that to age is to fade, that life peaks in our younger years, and that everything beyond that is a slow decline. But what if aging isn't an ending? What if it's a beginning? There is a saying, do not regret growing older. It is a privilege denied to many. Think about that. Think of the ones who never got the chance to experience their 50s, their 60s, their 70s. Think of the ones who left too soon, who never got to see their grandchildren, who never got to feel the deep, steady peace that comes with a life well lived. To grow old is not to lose something, it is to gain. To gain wisdom, to gain freedom, to gain the ability to look back and know that you lived. Because at 20 we care too much, at 30 we chase too much, at 40 we worry too much. But after 70 we finally understand what truly matters. The way you see time changes the way you live it. If you believe aging is a curse, you will spend your years fearing every wrinkle, every gray hair, every birthday that passes. But if you see aging as a privilege, you will treasure every moment, every lesson, every day that you are given. Because time is not your enemy, it is your greatest gift. Look at your hands. Look at the lines on your skin. Each one is a story. Each wrinkle is a moment you lived, a memory that shaped you. These are not signs of aging. These are proof that you were here. The world tells us to erase them, to hide the years we have earned. But why would we want to erase the evidence of a life fully lived? Aging does not make you invisible. It makes you timeless. There's a certain kind of beauty that only comes with age. It is in the way you no longer need to impress anyone, the way you stop chasing and start appreciating, the way you find joy in the smallest moments, watching the sunset, sipping your coffee, hearing the laughter of the ones you love. It is in the way you no longer feel the need to rush, in the way you have learned the value of silence, in the way you finally understand that life is not about how much you have, but how deeply you feel. At 20, we chase happiness. At 40, we work for it. But after 70, we simply live. What's the best part of growing older for you? Because if you truly open your eyes, you will see that aging is not the loss of youth. It is the discovery of who you were meant to be all along. The 7th on the list is perfectionism, perfection. It is a word we are taught to chase from the moment we are born. The perfect grades, the perfect job, the perfect house, the perfect life. We spend years, decades trying to get everything just right, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to be seen as anything less than flawless. But after 70, we begin to see the truth. Perfection is an illusion, and the sooner you let go of it, the freer you become. We are taught to believe that anything less than perfect is failure, that mistakes are a sign of weakness, that we must always do more, be more, achieve more. And so we carry this burden. We hesitate before speaking, afraid of saying the wrong thing. We rewrite messages, emails, conversations in our minds, wondering how we could have been better. We stare at ourselves in the mirror, picking apart every flaw as if life were a contest where only the flawless win. But here's what they never told us. Perfection was never the goal. Living was. I once had a grandmother who loved to cook. She never followed a recipe, never measured ingredients, never second-guessed herself. She would throw things into a pot, tasting as she went, adjusting, laughing. And sometimes, it didn't turn out quite right. Maybe the bread was too dense, maybe the sauce was too salty. But she never apologized, not once. Whenever someone pointed out a mistake, she would shrug and say, "If it tastes good, who cares?" And now, years later, I think about that often. About how she lived so freely, so unbothered by the small imperfections. About how she understood something that most people take a lifetime to learn. Perfection does not make life better. It only makes it smaller. Striving for excellence is good, but perfection is a trap. It is a never-ending chase, a ladder with no top rung, a race with no finish line. You will always find something to fix, something to improve, something to redo, and in the process, you will lose the most valuable thing of all, time. The Japanese have a concept called wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection. They believe that a crack in a teacup, a flaw in a fabric, a mistake in a painting, these are not things to hide, they are things to celebrate. Because they make the object real, they make it human, they make it alive. Imagine if you had spent your whole life waiting for perfection before doing something, waiting until you were perfectly ready to dance, to travel, to tell someone you love them. Imagine all the moments you would have missed. The truth is, perfectionism is just fear in disguise. Fear of being judged, fear of not being enough, fear of making a mistake. But life is messy. Life is uncertain. Life is full of mistakes. And that is what makes it worth living. So instead of chasing perfection, chase joy, chase growth, chase the things that make your soul feel alive, even if they are flawed, even if they are unfinished, even if they are beautifully imperfect. Tell me, what's something you finally accepted doesn't have to be perfect? Because at the end of your life, you won't remember the things you perfected. You will remember the things you allowed yourself to enjoy. Comparison to others, which is number 8 on the list. There is a silent weight we carry, a habit so deeply ingrained in us that we barely notice it. The habit of comparison. We measure our lives against others as if happiness were a competition. We ask ourselves, am I successful enough, loved enough, respected enough? We look around, searching for proof that we are doing life the right way. But after 70, you begin to understand something liberating. Your story is yours alone, and it was never meant to look like anyone else's. From the time we are young, we are placed into a race we never agreed to run. A race of achievements, of milestones, of supposed tos. Supposed to get married by a certain age, supposed to have a successful career, supposed to look a certain way, live a certain way, be a certain way. And so, we sprint forward, constantly glancing to the side, checking where we stand compared to others. Are they ahead of me? Have they achieved more? Am I falling behind? But then, one day, you look up and realize there was never a finish line. There was never a prize for being first. And worst of all, there was never even a race to begin with. Your story is yours alone. Stop measuring it against someone else's. There is no right timeline for life. There is no perfect way to be. And the moment you stop comparing, you set yourself free. Some people find love at 20, some at 60. Some build empires, some build gardens, some chase the stars. Some find joy in the simple, quiet moments of everyday life. And all of them are living beautifully, in their own way. I once knew a man who spent his life comparing himself to his brother. His brother had the big house, the successful business, the perfect family, And so this man spent years feeling like he was falling behind, like he had failed. One day at 72 years old, he visited his brother's house. He expected to feel small in comparison, but as they sat together, drinking coffee, he saw something he had never noticed before. His brother, wealthy, accomplished, respected, looked tired. He was speaking about all the things he wished he had done, how he had worked too much, how he had missed too many moments with his kids, how despite all his achievements, something still felt missing. That's when the man understood. His brother was not ahead of him, and he was not behind. They were simply on different roads, learning different lessons, experiencing different joys and regrets. There is no behind in life. There is only your path, and as long as you are walking it, you are exactly where you are meant to be. Look at nature. No two trees grow the same way. No two flowers bloom at the exact same time. The sun does not compare itself to the moon, yet both have their purpose, their time to shine. So why do we compare ourselves to others? Why do we believe that our journey must look like someone else's in order to be valuable? Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding, just for one day, to walk your own path without looking at anyone else's. To be fully present in your own life without wondering if someone else is doing it better. How much lighter would you feel? How much more peace would you have? If you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be? Perhaps you would tell them to stop rushing, to stop worrying, to stop measuring their life against someone else's. Perhaps you would tell them you are exactly where you are meant to be. Another one on list is the need to stay busy. We were taught to believe that movement is purpose, that busyness is proof of productivity, that if we are not doing something, we are wasting time. And so we fill our days, we chase tasks, schedules, responsibilities, always moving, always rushing, always afraid of stillness, as if stopping means falling behind. But after 70, something shifts, something unexpected. You begin to see what you could not see before. That sometimes doing nothing is the most meaningful thing of all. For most of our lives, we are measured by what we do, our work, our achievements, how full our calendar is, how much we have accomplished by the end of the day. Society tells us that being busy means being useful, that resting is lazy, that slowing down means falling behind. And so we live in motion. We work late hours, we run from one task to the next, we fill every empty space with something, anything, to prove that we are productive, that we are worthy. But what if all of that was just noise? What if the most valuable moments in life are the ones spent in stillness? There is an art to stillness, a wisdom in slowing down, in allowing yourself to just be. In doing nothing, you begin to notice everything, the way the sunlight moves across the floor, the way the wind hums through the trees, the way your own breath rises and falls, steady, unhurried. When you stop chasing, you start seeing. When you stop rushing, you start feeling. And you realize, life is not meant to be filled. It is meant to be lived. I once knew a man who could never sit still. Even in his retirement, he filled his days with endless projects, endless activities. He couldn't bear an empty afternoon, couldn't imagine a day without an agenda. One evening, he sat across from an old friend at dinner. They had known each other for over 40 years. As they ate, the friend sat quietly, smiling, listening, sipping his wine slowly. At one point, the busy man laughed and said, "How can you just sit there doing nothing?" The old friend simply smiled and replied, "And how can you spend your whole life avoiding it?" That was the moment he realized, stillness is not emptiness, it is presence. Imagine this. You are sitting on a porch watching the rain fall. There is nowhere to be, nothing to do, no one to impress. You are simply there, existing in that moment, fully present, fully alive. That is what we spend our whole lives chasing, without realizing we had it all along. Presence, peace, the ability to simply be. The world moves fast, let it. You don't have to keep up, you don't have to fill every moment with movement. Sometimes, the most important thing you can do is nothing at all. When was the last time you allowed yourself to do nothing? Tell me, what's one simple moment of stillness you cherish? Because in the end, you won't remember the days you spent rushing. You will remember the moments you allowed yourself to breathe. And finally on the list, worrying about the future. The future. For so much of our lives, it is the thing we chase, the thing we plan for, the thing we fear. We spend decades worrying about what's ahead, what will happen next. Will we be okay? Will we have enough? Will the people we love be safe? The mind races, creating stories, predicting outcomes, trying to control what has not yet come to pass. And yet, after 70, you begin to understand something that changes everything. The future will unfold as it should. But right now, in this moment, you are alive, and that is enough. For so much of life, we live in the next moment, the next task, the next worry, always looking ahead, always preparing for what's to come. We plan for retirement, we plan for our health, we plan for the people we love. And yet, no matter how much we prepare, life has a way of surprising us. Because no matter how much we plan, we cannot control the future. And the time we spend worrying about it, that is time we will never get back. The truth is, we have spent our lives believing we could control the uncontrollable. That if we worried enough, planned enough, prepared enough, we could shape the future to our will. But then, life teaches us a lesson. The things we feared the most never happened. The things we never expected changed everything. And through it all, we survived. We adapted, we learned, we grew. Worrying does not prevent tomorrow's troubles, it only steals today's peace. I once knew a man who spent his whole life worrying about the future. He saved every penny, planned for every possibility, never allowed himself to truly rest. One day, he would say, I will relax. One day, when everything is settled, when everything is safe, when I know exactly what's ahead, then I will enjoy life. But that day never came, because no matter how much he prepared, there was always another worry, another unknown, another what if. And then one day he was gone, and the life he had been waiting to enjoy, it never truly began. That is when I learned, tomorrow is never guaranteed, and if you wait to live until the future feels certain, you will wait forever. So what if, just for today, you stopped worrying about tomorrow? What if, just for today, you allowed yourself to be fully here? To notice the way the sunlight feels on your skin, to listen to the laughter of someone you love, to sit with a cup of coffee and feel no urgency, no rush, no fear of what's next. What if you trusted that life will unfold exactly as it is meant to? Because when you release your grip on the future, you open your hands to receive the present. The truth is, we have spent our lives believing we could control controllable. That if we worried enough, planned enough, prepared enough, we could shape the future to our will. But then, life teaches us a lesson. The things we feared the most never happened. The things we never expected changed everything, and through it all, we survived. We adapted, we learned, we grew. Worrying does not prevent tomorrow's troubles, it only steals today's peace. I once knew a man who spent his whole life worrying about the future. He saved every penny, planned for every possibility, never allowed himself to truly rest. One day, he would say, I will relax. One day, when everything is settled, when everything is safe, when I know exactly what's ahead, then I will enjoy life. But that day never came, because no matter how much he prepared, there was always another worry, another unknown, another what if. And then, one day, he was gone. And the life he had been waiting to enjoy, it never truly began. That is when I learned, tomorrow is never guaranteed. And if you wait to live until the future feels certain, you will wait forever. So what if, just for today, you stopped worrying about tomorrow? What if, just for today, you allowed yourself to be fully here, to notice the way the sunlight feels on your skin, to listen to the laughter of someone you love, to sit with a cup of coffee and feel no urgency, no rush, no fear of what's next? What if you trusted that life will unfold exactly as it is meant to? Because when you release your grip on the future, you open your hands to receive the present. What's one thing you no longer worry about? Perhaps it's money. Perhaps it's what others think. Perhaps it's the fear of the unknown, the what-ifs that kept you up at night for far too long. Whatever it is, let it go. Even if just for today, even if just for this moment. At 70, life isn't about what you've lost, it's about the wisdom you've gained. You have lived, you have learned, and now, more than ever, you have the power to truly be present. If this video gave you even one insight, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more wisdom, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Before we go, I just want to take a moment to say, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this journey. Thank you for allowing me to walk beside you, even if only for a little while. Life is made up of moments just like this. Moments of reflection, of connection, of wisdom passed from one heart to another. And if even a single word in this video brought you comfort, then our time together was worth it. Wherever you are, whoever you are, I want you to know this. Your story matters. Your journey is important, and you are never alone. So as you go about your day, as you move through the world, remember, you are exactly where you're meant to be. And if ever you need a reminder of that, you'll always have a place here with us. Until we meet again, take care of yourself, be kind to your heart, and most of all, be present. This isn't goodbye, it's just see you later. Until next time, my friend.